Hello and welcome to our live session. I'm Odette de Beer, founder of SustainHer. In the beginning of the year, I was driving to a women's event on the other side of Adelaide. And that event was amazing, but it cost me pretty much a full day in travel. And on my way back, I was wondering how many other women are experiencing the same challenges, feeling the same pain. And after having some conversations with women here in the hills, I decided something needed to be done. And we need to create a community up here, which is where Sustain Her comes from. The purpose of Sustain Her is really to build a community of businesswomen here in the hills. Sometimes we learn really cool stuff. Sometimes we just have coffee. Sometimes we just have a heart to heart chat. But the reality is we all need community. I have the absolute privilege of welcoming to the stage Caitlin Smith. Caitlin is the founder and principal advisor at Bradbury Advisory, a leading provider of accounting, taxation, and business advisory services nestled right here in the serene landscape of the Adelaide Hills. She has a passion for empowering women in business. Caitlin specializes in providing tailored services to her clients across the greater Adelaide and interstate as well. And I think Caitlin is a little bit of a serial networker. So Caitlin has been to all the networking events that's got to do with women. So she's got a really cool perspective. And today we're going to chat with Caitlin around sustain her and community rather than referral networks. Caitlin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Odette.
Would you mind sharing with us your thoughts on community versus referral networks and which do you think is better if one is better than the other and why?
For me, my referral networks is very tightly connected to my community. For me, starting out my business a bit over a year ago, I started going to a number of networking events across Adelaide, as Odette mentioned. And something that I found is like a bit of a difference depending on the type of event that you're going to. Like you have your networking events that are much more focused on client generation and deriving fees and income from the input that you're putting into these referral networks. But then I was able to, and also that didn't gel with me and made me feel very uncomfortable. But then you have these other networking events where it is just bringing together people with similar values and similar interests as well. Some of the groups are more industry specific, some are much broader, but I go to a few groups and where it's more so about building connection with people and finding people that you can have a chat with because especially if you're running a business by yourself. So my business is at the moment just me. I'm looking at expanding in the future, but that for me, when it comes to making business decisions and having conversations about the needs of my business and my needs as a business owner, I don't have a business partner to have those conversations with. So in these groups, you can find people who are in similar situations and yes, build that community. For me, that referral network and that community thing for me, they are one and the same. And if they're not, if I'm in a relationship that is purely referral based, then that's not something I'm going to be with long at all because that doesn't gel with how I work with people.
Absolutely. I love that. And it really is about connecting with people who experienced what you've experienced. They can tell you what they did and what worked and what didn't work, which is hugely helpful, especially when you start going into uncharted territories. Or perhaps you've done things like this before. I know of many women who've started businesses, sold businesses, started a new business, and then go, oh dear, this is very different to the previous one. And I suddenly don't know what to do. So it's not even that the people are novices or they don't know or that there's a lack of experience. It's just a different problem that requires sometimes just a different set of eyes and being able to connect with other people to hear their perspective. Just the change in perspective often is hugely helpful. So,
Mm.
Caitlin, what do you think from your personal experience? How has community played a role in the growth of your business, growth of you personally as an individual? Has there been any benefit for you to be part of a community rather than a pure networking kind of
I'm an accountant, I'm a tax agent, and those things can be pigeonholed a little bit into, oh, there's that boring person over there who does your tax return. But the services that I offer are much broader than that. But I view the things that I offer as a bit more of an industry specific area. But when I started my business and I opened my doors, as a lot of accountants, a lot of business owners do, people who take on clients, they're just like, oh, if it's something that I can do, then I'll do it. So I was like working with clients in industries that aren't necessarily like my preference, but I have experience there, so I can work with them in that space. But once I was able to realize, oh, actually, who do I want to work with? What type of clients do I want to work with? It formed, I guess, a bit more of a clearer path for me for my business. Like you mentioned, like my jam is working with women in business. And there are a few specific industries that I work with, mainly in Adelaide Hills and the NDIS, which seems to be dominated by women anyway, and that sort of goes hand in hand with it. But the me wanting to work with women in business and empower women in business, it's the path of my business journey went along with like my community journey as well, because it changed my perspective on the type of, that when I realized that I wanted to work primarily with women in business, empowering women in business, and okay, is there really any point in going to this business group that is just for everyone, or should I be going to groups that are specifically for women and for women in business? So I've mentioned to you before, Odette, that there's another group that I go to, but it's on the other side of town. It takes my whole day to go to this event. If I go to it, it's called Ladies at Lunch, and I love it. It's wonderful. Like you said, it takes my day, and that is for women and for women in business and women in a range of industries. But they're people that I want to work with, and not just as clients, but in like sort of people that I want their services from as well, and people that I want to build relationships with. So it that that realization of, oh, this is what my focus is, that sort of helped me realize like the community that I wanted to be a part of and the people that I want to build my relationships with, because I know something that I've really learned or had affirmed a number of times over this past year is that like women building each other up, it's such a powerful force. And I feel like the network, that the way that women network especially is very different to the way that men network. And for speaking quite generally, and this might not be the case for all women, but that community aspect is so important. If I don't have common ground, like you and I talk about our kids, and that's not something that applies to all women, but that is a point of connection that we have, and we have common ground to talk about, and we have similar situations that we can have shared experiences on, and have those conversations. And like we probably wouldn't, like if we didn't have similar situations and similar ground to talk on, then we probably wouldn't be as successful in having each other in both of our networks, because we don't have that connection in that community aspect. So it's just, yeah, sorry, I've sort of just rambled on a bit. I can't even remember what your initial question was, but I get all around community.
And it's true. Look, the reality is that when it comes to life in general, we like people who are like us. And then like us could very well be, we have commonality as we've got small kids, or we have commonality in business interests or in hobbies. And for me, it's important to be able to build community with someone who has the same kind of interest as I do, or at least understands my perspective. It's really hard to explain business issues in the context of life to someone who does not share the same kind of life as you. That's just the reality. When I speak to my single friends who don't have children but have businesses, they plow their entire life into the business. And that's fine at that season in life. My season is different. I have children, and I try and work around the children and the business and try and make things work. So when I then have an issue with, my kid was throwing up the whole night and I have a business meeting this morning and I need to be at this thing, they look at you and go, that's hard. And then continue.
Yeah.
The reality is, we all need a community where people understand our perspectives. And it's not so much about having the same perspective so we think the same. I don't think that it's not good to have
No.
people who think
No.
the same as you. But it is good to have someone say, geez, you know what? That's hard. I know. And I was able to do these things. Have you tried this? Or whatever the case is. I think there's huge value in being able to just be vulnerable with someone else because then we see a different side of people and you're able to work with someone who you understand. Maybe you're stressed this morning and you had a rough day and maybe you're a little bit short. That doesn't mean that you're rude. It's just you're tired. And these are the things that comes along with being a mom and having a business and having a family. So, Caitlin, could you share with us your experience with the Sustain Her network when you first came? You have come along to others. You've also presented one. Do you mind sharing with us your experience and how you found it?
It's it's such a warm it's such a warm, welcoming environment coming into the Sustain Her events. And I guess one of the big appeals for me is that it is hills based. And I live in the hills, Adelaide lives in the hills. And I don't think we've had any attendees so far who aren't from the hills. I think yeah, I think we're all hills based. People are outside the hills, very welcome to attend. But I guess part of that community aspect of it is us having that close proximity to one another. So like something that I've noticed is that at other events where it's more broader Adelaide, greater Adelaide based, people from a number of different suburbs, and that's all fine and everything. But when you're in a group of women who live a reasonably close distance from one another, there's just that added level of connection. Feels like,
Mm.
oh, did you like, it's just a broad example. Oh, what about those roadworks on such and such? Like, you can't really have that same conversation with somebody who lives on the other side of town to you. And also coming like people generally speaking of living in the hills, like we've made the decision to live in the hills so that we don't have to travel through the city every single day. And it's a different sort of approach to your day-to-day life and everything. And also women who are trying to establish their businesses in the hills. It's more of just like that. I don't know. It's that extra level of being more of a close knit group of women who are, I guess, just have more in common than you might find at events that are run in the city or run on the other side of town. The events themselves, I think Odette makes you make such an effort to make sure that we're I don't well, even just like supporting other local businesses in the hills. The events have been at like a number of cafes and hospitality venues around the hills. So I like that we're supporting local business, and that always feels like my nice, warm and fuzzy buffet doing that. And and also just having that openness to the women that are there that I don't know, because we're at the moment a small but growing group, like it allows people to have that input that because it is a bit smaller at the moment, a bit more close knit, that you don't feel lost in the crowd, that you might where you might feel it in other groups or at other events where you might have like a group of it's much more of a close knit communal feel that I know you actually get to speak to everybody in the room, which
Yeah.
I don't usually find at other networking events. You might see somebody on the other side of the room and go, oh, I might like to talk to them. You don't get an opportunity to because there's too many people. Whereas with Sustain Her, at least the way we are now, you do get to speak to everyone in the room and everybody gets a chance to speak as well, which is great.
Absolutely. And you presented at one of our events. You spoke about the
Yeah.
tax honeymoon, which was absolutely phenomenal. And unfortunately, you missed it. If you weren't at that event, you won't know what we're talking about. But Caitlin was amazing. And I know that all the women walked away with so much insight. And we all went, oh, I better get on top of my taxes because I don't want to be that girl, which is fantastic. But how has that benefited you from a business perspective? And also just presenting to the women and being able to sow into their businesses.
Yeah, yeah. I guess for me, so like my background, I've been working as an accountant. Oh, sorry, there's some not sure if you can hear it. There's some drilling going outside my office. But I've been an accountant for over a decade, and I've had experience presenting before, but I guess leading up to presenting at the Sustain Her event, I was a little bit out of practice because the last time I presented was, I don't know, pre-COVID, and then I've had 2 kids, and I haven't had the opportunity to present in to, I guess, an external party since then. And the opportunity to get back into that rhythm with a group of women that I felt comfortable with, that I felt that I know you're putting yourself in quite a vulnerable situation when you're presenting. And I felt like I didn't feel pressured to present. Odette asked me, and it was very much my decision to present. It's not something that's pushed on everybody within the group. It's if you want to, and if you have something that you want to present, that you can. So I felt like I didn't feel pressured in that way when we were actually like had the day and I was presenting to the group. It was yeah, very much that community aspect of it that I did try to leave a chunk of time for us to just have broad conversations about the topics afterwards. But also when I was just presenting, I felt that I could be in that vulnerable position and I felt safe in the space that we were in. So I'm thinking of some of the other events that I go to and the size and the number of people, and even just the fact that, there might be another 10 accountants in the room, and it can make you feel a bit uneasy. Whereas I did not feel uneasy at any point in time with when I was presenting to Sustain Her. So yeah, it's a different space, and it's something that it's a place that, yeah, you can feel safe and you can be open. And also, I don't know, I have had people, I did have, some women from the group afterwards who've reached out to me to, discuss possible, helping them with their own tax and accounting needs, which is wonderful. But also my presenting to the group and providing the information that I could. It I could have walked away from that and not had anybody reach out to me for any services, and I still would have felt like it was worthwhile because it's still like just building that connection with the group that you're in and giving back to the group that I know I feel I leave our Sustain Her events feeling a little bit nourished in, I don't know, it's almost like like we spoke about before, like having the opportunity to speak with people who are in similar situations to you. I felt very happy that I was in a position that I could give back in some small way. So leaving those sessions. Yeah, it's a nice feeling walking away from a Sustain Her event.
Beautiful. I'm so happy to hear that. It was really an awesome presentation. I'm sorry if you missed it, and we may ask Caitlin to come back next year and present again. I'm sure there'll be something else, but it was a really good chat about what's important when it comes to finances. And again, it's about creating community. It's about creating connection with the people in the group and finding a common space to share. It's a safe space. We get to ask questions, things that you may not want to ask in a big open forum, because we all kind of wonder, geez, am I going to look stupid because I don't know these things? And that's natural, that's normal. Caitlin, we have our event coming up on the 9th of August. What are you most looking forward to?
Oh, I know who's presenting, but I'm not sure because it's Karma presenting, isn't?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure what she's presenting on, but I should look into that. But I am looking forward just to seeing the group again. Hopefully, we have some newcomers come along as well. And because I think like the last session, we had a few new faces, and hopefully, we have a few more people joining the group again this time around. But yeah, I'm looking forward just to having those chats again with like-minded women in the hills, and yeah, having a good cup of coffee.
So we've got Connor Gore from the Natural Health Coach, who will be speaking to us about the Busy Woman's Guide to Managing Winter Wellness and Stress. And she'll be talking specifically about seasonal something disorder, which shortened is SAD. And we all experience it, especially in the hills when there's a little bit of sunshine in the winter and lots of rain. And we'll be walking away from that session, I'm sure, revived and revitalized and re-strengthened or ready for what spring has in store for us. If you want to join us, please feel free. book your ticket at Humanitics. The link is on this kicker on the screen. We also do actually have a lady that's joining us from outside of the Adelaide Hills. I met her earlier, late last week. I'm very excited that we will be having some external Hills people joining us. But it really is. It's open for anyone who wants to join us. It is a safe space. It is about building community before we build referral networks, because those things actually don't matter. It's the human to human connection that matters. Caitlin, before we jump off, please will you tell our viewers where they can find you and how they can connect with you?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Facebook. My business is called Bradbury Advisory, Bradbury Advisory. And my website is Bradbury Advisory. So sorry, I'm trying to make my computer stop making noises. bradburyadvisory.com.au. And yeah, if you'd like to reach out for a chat, I'd love to hear from you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. And for those of you who have joined us live, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you at our next event on the 9th of August in Hondor. We'll be hearing from natural health coach Kamagor. Until next time, take care. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks.